Get the hell out of my showroom now!
Rodeo Drive, 7:41 in the morning, a Tuesday. What the CEO of Sterling Bentwood Motors said next.
Pull it.
Cost him $217 million. To understand how a man in a patched leather jacket destroyed a 64-year-old empire, we have to go back. Get this filthy bum out of my showroom. Sterling Bentwood Motors does not entertain street people. Keanu Reeves stood still next to the silver Charon, his hands folded loosely in front of him. He had been about to ask a question about the carbon fiber undercarriage. He never got to ask it. Marcus Whitfield III walked across the polished marble floor with the stride of a man who had never been told no. He stopped 4 feet away, close enough to make it a confrontation, far enough to make it clear he would not breathe the same air as his guest. Get out before I call the police. 3 sentences, said in front of 19 witnesses, on the showroom floor of the most exclusive luxury car dealership on Rodeo Drive. Marcus Whitfield had no idea that the man he was throwing out had walked in carrying a cashier's check for $217 million. He just didn't know it yet. Let me take you back to the beginning. 6:43 in the morning, a quiet street in Studio City, California. A small ranch house with peeling white shutters and a garage that smelled like motor oil and old leather. Keanu Reeves stood in front of a workbench, polishing a wrench he had owned since 1994. He worked it slow, careful, the way a man works when he has nowhere to be but here. The garage was not impressive. Concrete floor, exposed beams, a calendar from a brake shop in Burbank tacked to the wall. In the corner sat a black motorcycle, an Arch KR GT1, hand-built, his own design. Next to the bike, a folded leather jacket, shot perfecto, the original. He had bought it the summer they shot The Matrix in 1998. The lining had been replaced twice. The right elbow had been patched with a square of suede in 2004. The collar was soft from 27 years of being pulled up against the cold. On the workbench beside the wrench sat a thin manila folder, 41 pages. Engineering schematics, financial projections, and a single cashier's check from City National Bank for $217,842,000, made out to Sterling Bentwood Motors, Beverly Hills. Keanu had spent 6 months on this deal. Quiet months. No press releases, no phone calls returned through assistants. He had read every spec sheet on the new Sterling Bentwood electric platform. He had ridden out to Sonoma and watched the prototype run laps at Sonoma Raceway. He believed in the engineering. He did not yet know whether he believed in the people. He poured the last of his coffee down the sink. He pulled on the jacket. He picked up the folder. The Arch coughed once and caught. He rode east on Ventura Boulevard at 6:52 in the morning. The air still cool, the sun not yet hard. He took surface streets all the way down to Rodeo Drive, because freeways at this hour are for people who have something to prove. Keanu Reeves did not have anything to prove. He never did. He parked the Arch at the curb on Dayton Way at 7:19. He hung the helmet on the bar end. He walked the half block to Sterling Bentwood Motors in worn black boots that had cost him $89 in 2011 and had been resoled 3 times since. The boots were clean. They were not new. The door of Sterling Bentwood Motors was made of bronze and weighed 70 pounds. A doorman in a charcoal suit opened it without making eye contact. Keanu stepped inside. Marble, glass, Italian leather. 5 cars on the showroom floor, each one worth more than the house Keanu grew up in. A Chiron in liquid silver, a Rolls-Royce Spectre in midnight blue, 2 Bentleys, 1 McLaren GTS in a green that did not exist in nature. The air smelled like new leather, and a candle that cost $90 to burn. A young woman behind the reception desk looked up. Her eyes moved from his face to the patched elbow on his jacket to his boots. She did not smile. "Can I help you?" "I have a meeting with Marcus Whitfield at 8. She did not check her screen. She did not ask his name. She tilted her head toward a leather bench near the service entrance. The one customers were not meant to see. "You can wait over there. Someone will be with you." Keanu sat down on the bench. He set the folder on his knee. He waited. 8 came and went. 8:15, 8:22. Executives in tailored suits walked past him toward the elevator that led to the offices on the second floor. None of them looked at him. One of them, a man in a navy blazer with a pocket square, glanced at the bench, frowned, and looked away. He thought Keanu was a delivery driver. He thought wrong. At 8:34, the receptionist finally walked over. She did not apologize for the wait. "Mr. Whitfield will see you on the floor." Not in his office, on the showroom floor. Keanu stood up, smoothed the front of his jacket, and followed her. Now here is the thing about Marcus Whitfield. He was 38 years old. He had inherited Sterling Bentwood Motors from his father, who had inherited it from his grandfather, who had founded the company in 1961, selling Jaguars to studio executives. Marcus had never built anything. He had never lost anything either. The two things were related, though he had never noticed. He stood in the middle of the showroom in a charcoal Brioni suit, a Patek Philippe Nautilus on his left wrist, and a smile that had been practiced in a mirror. The smile faded the moment he saw Keanu walking toward him. The receptionist said the name, Mr. Reeves. Marcus did not extend his hand. He looked at the jacket. He looked at the boots. He looked at the manila folder, which had a coffee ring on one corner from where Keanu had set down a mugs last Tuesday. Then he looked at the receptionist, as though she had played a joke on him that he did not find funny. There has been a mistake. Keanu kept his hand at his side. He had not offered it yet. He was waiting to read the room. He was reading the room now. "Sir, I had this meeting confirmed 3 weeks ago." Marcus laughed. Not loud. Just enough. The kind of laugh that lets everyone in earshot know that whatever was just said does not deserve a real one. "There is no meeting. I do not take meetings with people who walk in off the street wearing jackets from the Goodwill bin." Keanu did not flinch. The folder stayed at his side. 3 salespeople had stopped what they were doing. A pair of customers near the Spectre had turned to watch. The 19 people on the showroom floor were now all looking at the man in the patched jacket. Marcus felt the audience, and he played to it. "Look, I do not know what you think this place is. We sell cars to senators. We sell cars to studio heads. The base price of the vehicle behind you starts at $341,000. So whatever you are selling, whatever charity you are collecting for, whatever script you are trying to pitch, this is not the place." Keanu spoke quietly. "I am not selling anything." Marcus tilted his head. "You are not buying anything either. Look at yourself." The room held its breath, the way rooms hold breath when something is going wrong and nobody knows how to stop it. Keanu lifted the folder. "Then let me show you what I came here to show you." Marcus reached out and pushed the folder back down. Did not take it, pushed it. The way a man pushes away a tray he did not order. "I do not need to see whatever is in that envelope. I can see you, and I can see that you do not belong in this building. You are embarrassing my staff. You are embarrassing my customers. And you are embarrassing yourself. Get out." The folder was still in Keanu's hand. The corner of one page slipped out. The cashier's check. Pale green paper. The numbers visible if anyone had cared to look. $217,842,000. Nobody looked. Marcus was too busy performing. The customers were too busy to being mortified on his behalf. The salespeople were too busy keeping their jobs. The check went back into the folder unread. If you are still wondering whether Marcus Whitfield can pull this back, whether somebody is about to walk over and say something, save him from himself, the answer is no. Nobody in that building saved him, and what he said in the next 60 seconds is what cost him everything. He just had not figured that out yet. Marcus took a half step closer. He lowered his voice, but not enough. People still heard. People always still hear. "I know your type. You see a place like this, and you think maybe if you just walk in and stand around long enough, somebody will mistake you for a real customer. Maybe they will let you sit in one of the cars. Maybe they will take a picture with you. Get out of my showroom." Keanu looked at him for a long moment. The look was not angry. It was not hurt. It was the look of a man taking a careful measurement, the way a carpenter measures a board before he cuts it. "May I say one thing?" "No, sir." I said no. "I am calling security. Marcus turned to a thin man in a black suit standing near the door. The man did not move at first. He had been at Sterling Bentwood for 9 years. He knew faces. He had recognized Keanu when he walked in, but he had also recognized the look on Marcus Whitfield's face. And he had a daughter at UCLA and a mortgage in Tarzana. And he stayed where he was until Marcus snapped his fingers a second time. Then he came. "Sir, please come with me." He did not argue. He tucked the folder under his arm. He turned. He walked toward the door. Slow, steady, boots on marble. Marcus was not done. Men like Marcus are never done. They have to put a button on it. They have to be the last voice in the room. "And don't come back," Marcus called after him. "This is not a place for people like you." It never was. People like you. He said it in front of 19 witnesses. Like it was a fact. Like it was something he believed in his bones. Keanu reached the door. The doorman opened it without looking at him. The street air came in. Warm now, the sun just over the buildings on the other side of Rodeo. He stepped out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. No slam, no scene, no raised voice. Just a quiet exit from a building that had never deserved his presence in the first place. Marcus turned to his staff and clapped his hands once. "Back to work. Show this gentleman the Spectre." The room obeyed. Conversations resumed. The customers laughed nervously. The salespeople smiled too hard. 19 people pretended they had not just watched a man get humiliated for wearing a patched leather jacket on a Tuesday morning. Out on the sidewalk, Keanu walked back to his motorcycle. He pulled out his phone. He pressed one contact. 2 rings, a voice answered. Guard Hollinger, his partner at Arch Motorcycle for the last 14 years. The man who knew where every dollar of Keanu's money went and why. How did it go? Keanu paused. He looked at the bronze door of Sterling Bentwood Motors. He looked at the gold letters, spelling out the name. Pull it, 2 words. Guard did not ask why, did not ask what happened, did not hesitate. The deal? All of it? Yeah, done. Keanu hung up. He swung a leg over the arch. He started the engine. He rode west on Wilshire toward the ocean. The cashier's check was still in his jacket pocket. $217,842,000. The wind picked up. The morning kept going. And Marcus Whitfield, back inside his marble showroom, had no idea that the 3rd generation of his family's company had just started bleeding from a wound he could not see. 12 days passed. In those 12 days, Marcus Whitfield thought about the man in the patched jacket exactly 0 times. He erased the morning the way he erased every uncomfortable thing in his life. By delegating the discomfort to someone else and moving on, he went to his usual lunch at the Hotel Bel Air on the Wednesday after. He played 18 holes at Riviera on Saturday. He flew to Aspen on Sunday for a board meeting he could have done by Zoom, but preferred not to. Life was good. Life was predictable. Life made sense. Until it didn't. On the 13th day, at 6:12 in the morning, the first email landed in the inbox of Heather Lansing. Heather was the chief financial officer of Sterling Bentwood Motors. She had been with the company for 11 years. She arrived at her desk every morning before sunrise because she had 3 children and a husband who traveled, and the only quiet time in her day was before the rest of the world woke up. She opened the email. She read it. She read it again. She put down her coffee. The email was from a private equity firm called Resonance Capital Partners. It was 3 paragraphs long. It informed her that the $217 million strategic investment that had been quietly negotiated over the last 6 months had been withdrawn effective immediately. With prejudice, no counter-signature would be provided. No further communication would be entertained. Heather stared at the screen for a long minute. She had not known about the deal. Marcus had kept it to himself the way Marcus kept everything to himself because Marcus believed that information was a thing you hoarded and parceled out only when you wanted to look generous. So Heather did what any CFO would do. She started making calls. The first call went to Resonance Capital. Voicemail. The second call went to the bank that had been holding the cashier's check in escrow. The check had been returned to the issuing account at 4:11 yesterday afternoon. Funds released. The third call went to Marcus. Marcus did not answer until the fourth ring. He was on the eighth tee at Bel Air Country Club. What, Marcus? Resonance just pulled the deal. The 217, the whole thing. Long silence on the line, the kind of silence that happens when a man's brain is sprinting to catch up with what his ears just heard. What deal? The Resonance deal, the strategic investment for the electric platform. Marcus, please tell me you know what I am talking about. Another silence then. That deal was never confirmed. It was a preliminary discussion. Heather closed her eyes. Marcus, I am looking at a signed term sheet dated June 14th. I am looking at a wire confirmation that was supposed to land in our account next Monday. I am looking at a withdrawal letter that just hit my desk and copied our legal department. What did you do? I did not do anything, Heather. The line went dead. Marcus was already calling his assistant. By the time Marcus got back to his office that afternoon, the second domino had fallen. A consortium of 3 regional dealership groups that had signed letters of intent to distribute the new Sterling Bentwood electric line had quietly notified the company through their attorneys that they were stepping back. Pending further review, the reason given was vague. The timing was not. By Friday, 2 more institutional investors had pulled their commitments. By the following Monday, the engineering team in Long Beach was told to halt prototype testing because the budget had been frozen. By Wednesday of that week, a Wall Street Journal reporter named Andrea Halsey called the front desk and asked for comment on the rumor that Sterling Bentwood was facing a liquidity crisis. The front desk transferred her to Heather. Heather declined to comment. The story ran on Thursday morning above the fold in the business section. By Friday, the stock price of Sterling Bentwood's parent company, which had been quietly traded on a secondary market for years, lost 41% of its value before lunch. Marcus held an emergency meeting on the showroom floor. He stood under the chandelier between the Chiron and the Spectre. He told his staff that everything was fine. He used the phrase temporary market correction 4 times. He used the phrase strong fundamentals 6 times. He did not use the phrase I have no idea what happened, although that was the only true sentence he could have said. The layoffs began the following Monday. 14 people the first week, 23 the second. By the end of the month, Sterling Bentwood Motors had cut 1/3 of its workforce. The doorman who had opened the door for Keanu Reeves was among them. The receptionist who had pointed Keanu to the service bench kept her job, though she was reassigned to the back office and never spoke to a customer again. And then the board called Marcus in. Not into the boardroom, into a conference room at the law offices of Sutter and Beale on the 34th floor of a building Marcus had never been to. He arrived in his usual suit. He arrived 12 minutes late. He arrived believing he was going to take charge of the conversation. He did not. The chairwoman of the board was a woman named Patricia Bradford, 61 years old, 2 decades on the board, the only person at Sterling Bentwood who had ever told Marcus's father no and made it stick. She did not stand when Marcus came in. She did not offer him a seat. She slid a single sheet of paper across the table. On the paper was a photograph, a still frame from the showroom security camera, time-stamped 7:41 on a Tuesday morning. In the photograph, Marcus Whitfield was leaning toward a man in a patched leather jacket. Marcus's face was twisted into something he would not have recognized in a mirror. The man in the jacket was holding a manila folder. His expression was perfectly calm. Marcus glanced at the photo. He frowned. So this is the man you threw out of our showroom. So his name is Keanu Reeves. Marcus blinked. Keanu Reeves. Marcus said the name once, then again, as though saying it twice would change what it meant. The actor, the investor, the engineer. The man who quietly owns 19% of Arch Motorcycle and sits on the boards of 3 engineering nonprofits. The man whose investment fund, Resonance Capital Partners, was about to wire this company $217 million on a Monday morning until you called him a filthy bum and threw him out into the street. Patricia Bradford did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The board has reviewed the security footage. The board has reviewed the audio. The board has reviewed 19 statements from witnesses present that morning, including 6 of your own employees, 3 of whom have already filed wrongful termination claims against you personally. Marcus opened his mouth. Patricia held up one finger. I am not finished. The $217 million that Mr. Reeves was prepared to invest in our electric platform has been redirected. It has gone in full to Northbridge Cardinelli, who, as you know, has been chasing our market position for 14 years. Northbridge announced their new electric line yesterday. Mr. Reeves is the anchor investor. His firm holds a board seat. His face is in the press release. Marcus had not seen the press release. He had been too busy yelling at his assistant about the Wall Street Journal. Article Patricia kept going. Effective at the close of business. Today, you are removed as Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Bentwood Motors. You are removed from the board. You will surrender your access credentials, your company vehicles, your corporate cards, and the keys to the executive offices. You will not return to the showroom on Rodeo Drive at any time for any reason. If you do, you will be arrested for trespassing. Marcus's mouth was open. His tongue would not work. You cannot do this. We can't. We did. The vote was unanimous. Marcus stood up. He stood up too fast, and his chair tipped over behind him. Nobody helped him pick it up. This is my company. My grandfather founded this company. Patricia did not look up from her folder. Your grandfather founded the company. Your father ran it. You inherited it. There is a difference. I will sue. Sit down, Marcus. He sat down. Patricia closed the folder. There is one more thing. The lawsuit Mr. Reeves filed 2 weeks ago is not against the company. It is against you personally, for defamation, for intentional infliction of emotional distress, for civil rights violations under the Unruh Civil Rights Act of the state of California. His attorneys have requested expedited discovery. They have 19 witnesses. They have security footage. They have a recording of your voice. I would suggest you find personal counsel. The company will not be representing you. Marcus left the building at 3:48 in the afternoon. He had to take a rideshare home because his company car had already been recalled. He sat in the back of a black sedan driven by a man named Anthony from Glendale, and he stared out the window at the city he had grown up believing belonged to him. And for the first time in his 38 years, he understood that it never had. Now, before this story keeps going, I want you to do one thing. If you are watching this and you have ever been treated like Keanu Reeves was treated that morning, like you did not belong in a room you had every right to be in, drop one word in the comments. Just one. Tell me where you were when it happened. I read every single one of these, and if you are not subscribed yet, hit the button. Because what Marcus Whitfield does in the next part of this story, the one place he goes that he should never have gone, is the moment the whole thing breaks open. The lawsuit moved fast, faster than Marcus thought possible. His attorney, a man named Philip Reston from a small firm in Pasadena, had taken the case only because Marcus had paid the full retainer in cash up front. Philip Reston told him on day one that this was not going to be a winning case. Marcus did not listen. Men like Marcus never listen. Not to attorneys, not to accountants, not to wives, not to anyone who tells them what they do not want to hear. The case went to mediation in early September. Mediation is where smart defendants settle. Marcus refused to settle. He sat across a conference table from Keanu Reeves for the first time since the showroom. Keanu was wearing the same jacket, same boots. The mediator, a retired federal judge named Walter Brennan, watched Marcus the whole time. He had seen a lot of defendants. He could tell within 10 minutes which ones were going to make their own situation worse. Marcus made it worse. Marcus opened with a counteroffer. He offered Keanu $25,000 and a public apology in exchange for a full release of all claims. Keanu's lead attorney, a woman named Joanne Picard, did not laugh. She did not need to. She simply slid a folder across the table. In the folder were 3 statements. Statement number 1 was from a man named Reginald Carter, a black engineer who had interviewed at Sterling Bentwood Motors in 2021 and had been told by Marcus, off the record, that the dealership preferred candidates who, quote, fit the brand. Reginald had recorded the conversation. Statement number 2 was from a woman named Frances Holloway, a single mother who had walked into the showroom in 2022 to buy a used Bentley Continental in cash with money from a wrongful death settlement, and had been refused service by Marcus personally because, again quoting Marcus, the car was not appropriate for her circumstances. Statement number 3 was from a man named David Ruiz, a former salesperson at Sterling Bentwood, who had been fired in 2023 after he refused to comply with Marcus's directive to steer certain customers toward the service entrance because they did not look the part. Marcus stared at the 3 statements. He stared for a long time. Philip Reston pulled him into the hallway. "Marcus, settle this now." "I cannot. I will not. They are lying." Philip went home that night and called his wife from the car. He told her that he had seen a lot of defendants destroy themselves over the years, but he had never seen one do it this completely, this fast, this voluntarily. The trial began on a Tuesday in November. The Los Angeles Superior Courtroom was packed. Andrea Halsey from the Wall Street Journal sat in the second row. A reporter from the Los Angeles Times sat behind her. 3 local news cameras were set up outside the building. Keanu took the stand on the 3rd day. He wore a dark blazer, a plain white shirt, the same boots. He answered every question quietly. He did not raise his voice once. When Joanne Picard asked him to describe what Marcus had said to him in the showroom, Keanu repeated the words exactly. He did not soften them. He did not embellish them. He said them the way a man says something he has already forgiven, but will not pretend did not happen. The audio recording was played for the jury on the 4th day. Marcus's voice, captured on the showroom security system that he had installed himself 3 years earlier, filled the courtroom. "Get this filthy bum out of my showroom. This is not a place for people like you. It never was." The jury foreman, a retired postal worker from Inglewood named Albert Stevens, did not look at Marcus once during the playback. He looked at the floor. Marcus took the stand on the 8th day. His attorney tried to walk him through a careful, prepared explanation. Marcus did not stick to the script. Halfway through cross-examination, Joanne Picard asked him one question. "Mr. Whitfield, do you believe today, sitting here in this courtroom, that you did anything wrong on the morning of June 23rd? Marcus stared at her. He stared for what felt like a full minute. Then he said, "No, I do not." The courtroom went quiet. Even the bailiff at the door, who had been leaning against the wall, straightened up. Joanne Picard did not ask a follow-up. She did not need to. She sat down. The jury deliberated for 2 hours and 11 minutes. They came back with a verdict on every count. Guilty. Liable. Damages against Marcus Whitfield, personally, in the amount of $9,440,000. The judge issued a written statement that ran in the Los Angeles Times the following morning. "Mr. Whitfield, what you did in that showroom was not a misunderstanding. It was not a moment of poor judgment. It was a deliberate act of contempt, carried out in public, against a man who had done nothing to you except walk through your door. The damage you did was not only to Mr. Reeves. It was to every person who ever wondered whether the way they were dressed, the car they arrived in, or the color of their skin would be enough to bar them from a room they had every right to enter. This court finds your conduct beneath any defense you have offered, and finds your refusal to acknowledge that conduct, even now, to be the clearest evidence of why this verdict is necessary." The story did not end at the courthouse. 6 weeks after the verdict, the California Civil Rights Department opened a formal investigation into Sterling Bentwood Motors. The investigation lasted 9 months. It produced a 63-page report. The report documented a pattern of customer discrimination, going back at least 7 years, with at least 31 documented incidents, involving customers who had been refused service, redirected to the service entrance, or asked to leave the showroom on the basis of appearance, race, or perceived class. Sterling Bentwood Motors, now under new management led by Heather Lansing, settled the state action for $11,200,000. The settlement included a mandatory civil rights training program for every employee. an independent customer advocate position, reporting directly to the board, and a public accountability page on the company website that listed every complaint received and how it was resolved. The page is still there. It is updated monthly. And one more thing. Sterling Bentwood committed $8 million to a scholarship fund for first-generation engineering students at 3 California universities. The fund was named after Reginald Carter, the engineer Marcus had turned away in 2021. Heather Lansing called Reginald personally to ask his permission. He cried on the phone. He said yes. 18 months after the morning at the showroom, Keanu Reeves rode his arch out to a community garage in Boyle Heights, on the east side of Los Angeles. The garage was a nonprofit. It taught teenagers and young adults from the neighborhood how to rebuild engines, how to weld, how to read a torque spec, how to use their hands to build something instead of buying something. Keanu had funded the garage quietly for 11 years. Nobody outside the staff knew his name was attached to it. He sat that afternoon on an upturned milk crate in the corner of the garage and helped a 22-year-old named Diego put a clutch back together on a 1992 Honda Civic. They did not talk much. Keanu was comfortable with silence. He always had been. When the clutch was back together, Diego wiped his hands on a rag and looked at the older man on the milk crate. "Hey, are you really him?" Keanu smiled, half a smile. "I am whoever you need me to be today, kid." Diego laughed. Then he held up the wrench. "So what is the secret to what? To being you, to not letting people get to you when they look at you like you are nothing." Keanu thought about it for a long moment. The garage door was open. A breeze was coming in off the street. A radio in the back was playing a song Keanu had not heard since 1996. There is no secret. You just keep showing up. You let them measure you however they want, and then you go build something they cannot ignore. Diego nodded slowly. He turned the wrench in his hand. 300 miles to the north, in a one-bedroom rental in Bakersfield, Marcus Whitfield sat at a Formica kitchen table. There was a stack of unopened mail on one side of the table. On the other side was a copy of a business magazine that had been left in the lobby of his building. The magazine was open to a feature article. The headline was about a Northbridge Cardinelli's electric line, which had outsold every competitor in its segment in the previous quarter. There was a small inset photograph on page 41. Keanu Reeves, in his patched leather jacket, standing next to the lead engineer of Northbridge Cardinelli on the assembly floor in Fremont. Marcus had been looking at the photograph for an hour. He had not read the article. He did not need to. He understood now. He had understood for a long time, although he had refused to say it out loud, because saying it out loud meant admitting that the man he had thrown out of his grandfather's showroom had not destroyed him. The man had simply stepped out of the way and let Marcus's own choices do the work. Every word he had said in that showroom, every glance, every dismissal, every people like you, was still on him. The wreckage had his name on it. Keanu Reeves had not pulled the trigger. Keanu Reeves had just refused to keep standing in the path of the bullet Marcus had fired at himself. Marcus closed the magazine. He sat at the table for a long time after that. The refrigerator hummed. A neighbor's dog barked somewhere down the street. The sun moved across the linoleum floor and crossed his bare feet and kept going. He picked up a pen. He pulled an unused envelope from the stack of mail. On the back of the envelope, in handwriting that had gone shaky, in the last few months, he wrote 4 words. "I am so sorry." He did not have anywhere to send it. He folded the envelope in half and put it in his pocket. If this story moved you, if you saw someone in it you recognized, maybe yourself, maybe somebody who once stood at the bench by the service entrance and waited for a meeting that never came, do me one favor. Share this video with one person today, just one. Somebody who needs the reminder that they belong in every room they walk into, that the patch jacket is not the measure of the man, that the loudest person in the room is almost never the most powerful one. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. There is another story coming next week that is going to surprise you in a way this one did not. And to the person watching this right now, who has ever been told they do not belong, by a doorman, a receptionist, a teacher, a boss, a stranger on the street. Listen. Walk in anyway. Sit down anyway. Speak up anyway. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who does not need to prove anything. Be that person. The story you just heard is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real persons, living or otherwise, is for narrative purposes only and is not intended as a factual account.